This task is a file input and output focused task which involves some handling of strings/characters. In the Python language, there is no distinction between strings and characters other than to say that characters are the building blocks of strings, but there's no separate data type for them. So in order to prepare for this task, I have set up in my folder a Python program with the .py file extension, but also a text file which just happens to have the same file name, but the .txt file extension, and here it is here. I've put in 150 zeros and ones quite randomly. You can see there the column count. We're now at column 151, ready to receive the next data value. You'll notice down here in the bottom right it tells us that we're using the character encoding UTF-8, and so that's something that we're going to have to make use of in a little moment. So in order to get things going, the very first thing that we're going to have to do is open the file that we're going to be dealing with, which means forming a live connection between our Python program and our plain text file. So I'm just going to call it binary. So, and we're going to use the function called open. In this case, I'm going to provide multiple parameters. The first thing I'm going to provide is the file name of the file that we're going to be opening. I was about to accidentally write the .py extension, but it's obviously the plain text file. The next thing I'm going to signal is that I'm opening this file in read mode. And finally, I'm going to make a note that the encoding that I'm using in the file is the UTF-8 encoding, which is a variant of the use of Unicode. So 3 important parameters there. I hope that makes sense. So the next thing is that we're going to start giving some thought to the process of iterating through all of the zeros and ones in the file and reading them in and adding them to maybe some sort of counters. So I'm going to set up 2 counters. I'm going to set up a counter called zeros and initialize it to 0, and set up a counter called ones and initialize it to 0 as well. Okay, next we're going to read the very first bit that we find in the text file. This is called a priming read because it gets things started. So it's the spark that kind of gets things going. So what we're going to do here is we are going to use the file called binary, and we're going to call the read method to read 1 character from the file. We are going to store that character inside a variable that I'm just going to call bit. Okay, so that's where we've read something from the file whose variable name is binary. Okay, next we want to iterate through all other characters in the file. So I'm going to set up a while loop to do this. So as we step through a file, stepping through character by character, eventually we will reach the end of the file, and when we do reach the end of the file, it means that the character that we've read is going to be the empty string. So whilst the bit that has been read is not equal to the empty string, we keep going. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to decide if the bit that has just been read is a 0 or a 1. So if the bit is the character 0, which I'm just going to write using the normal string notation in Python, then if it's that case, then my variable called zeros needs to be incremented. So zeros becomes equal to zeros plus 1. Alternatively, if the bit that I've just read is actually the 1, then it's the ones that needs to be incremented. Okay, having incremented either the 0 or the 1, the next thing that I'm going to need to do is repeat the process of reading the next binary number, and then that will finish the while loop and cause the while loop to restart, this time with a fresh bit, in this case the second bit. And so as long as the second bit isn't the end of the file, the empty string, then we go ahead and we analyze what is the second bit and update our counters accordingly. Okay, having now finished iterating through the file, What we now need to do is close the file. So the name of the file is binary, and we're going to close it. And this is actually very important in terms of our, oh, sorry, I used the wrong comment syntax there. It's very important to close the file because we want the file to open easily by the next program that comes along to use it. Okay, at this point then, I think we're ready to output the outcomes. Okay, outcomes can now be displayed. And so two very simple print statements. Let's just write one of them and then we can use copy and paste to write the other one. So the number of zeros was, now if I'm trying to use the plus sign, then that means that I'm going to have to write zeros, which is the variable name, but I'm going to have to typecast it into string format in order that it can be concatenated using the plus symbol in Python. And then similarly, using the same approach, we'll say ones and we'll put in the ones variable in here. Okay, this now looks like it's ready for testing, so let's go ahead and run the program and look for bugs. And bring down the file. Yep, so 83 plus 7 will give us 90, plus 60 will give us 150, and as I said before, there were 150 binary digits inside the file. Okay, so generally speaking, I'm happy that this program works. I'm happy that it does meet the requirements of the task.